Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to another GTA discussion video where I'm going to be talking about whether you should buy the Pfister 811 or not. I wasn't going to make this video initially because I think the results speak for themselves. You know, it's good in certain situations, it's not very good in proper racing situations. And you know, I made a video about whether you should buy the X80 Proto last week, and that was a bit more nuanced. There was a bit more to that, so it was worth making a video. But the 811 is a bit more straightforward. However, I actually saw a video from That Saints fan where he made a comment about something that really made me think a little bit more about, you know, what we do and the idea that I need to explain something a little bit more. Now, I just want to say that, you know, thank you to him and Mr. Boss for the Win, who actually shouted me out in their videos and left the links in the description. That doesn't happen all the time, but it is nice when it does happen. But yeah, I'm going to play the little clip from That Saints fan's video for something that he said, and then I'll come back and explain my thoughts on it and try to better explain what he's going on about and answer that part of the video.
If you really care about circuit racing and you're a hardcore racing fan, you can go check out his video and come to your own conclusion. But basically he says that this car, the Pfister 811, is the 11th best car, or worst car, however you want to look at it, in the superclass when it comes to circuit racing. And the reason that is because the traction isn't that great. However, and apparently I'm wrong according to like the majority of my stream, but I don't know how I would be wrong. If anyone wants to like actually let me know, please do in the comment section. Even if the traction isn't as good as an Entity or a T20, doesn't how it handles around a lap ultimately come down to the driver? Like, if you can control the handling, like, and what it does when it drives, theoretically, wouldn't that car that is better in acceleration and top speed be better than the other ones? That's the way I see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong.
So let's try and answer that, because it is a pertinent question, and I think it's easy being part of the racing community and surrounding yourself with people who understand the cars in a racing situation and understand what racing is all about. It's easy to forget that there are people out there who don't take an interest in racing or don't understand these aspects of the game. You know, I would imagine that there's quite a few people watching this video or who are subscribed to me who initially didn't understand any of this themselves. And you know, there's always people out there. You know, I'm not one of these huge YouTubers. I haven't reached everybody yet, so it's and even if I do reach everybody, there's always some people who are never going to, you know, want to learn or want to understand. But if people do want to get an answer to that question, then that's what I'm going to try and do in this video and explain it. Because, you know, all I've ever tried to do with this channel is try to inform people about racing, try to help people get better at racing, get people interested in racing using GTA, and ultimately inform people about which are the best cars to buy in a racing situation. And to not answer a question like this would be wrong of me, and I've got to, you know, I can't just say that because I've been doing this for nearly 3 years now that people should know this stuff by now. It's not always the case, because I'm never going to have reached everybody. So let's try and answer that. Now, I think that basically we can break down car performance into 4 main aspects. Now, in me answering this question, it is going to answer the overall scope of the video of whether you should buy the 811 or not. So, you know, it is all going to come full circle at the end. But there's basically 4 parts of car performance if you break it down to the most basic terms. The one that everybody understands the most and the easiest is top speed. You get to a certain speed and then you can't get any higher than that. That is the top speed that car will go in a straight line, and you're not going to be able to go any faster than that. Then you've also got acceleration, which takes you up to top speed. The better the acceleration, the quicker you're going to reach that top speed. You've got braking, which obviously that's the opposite of acceleration. That's how the better you're braking, the quicker you're going to be able to slow down. And then you've got traction as well. Now, acceleration, braking and top speed are all to do with straight line performance. That's how quick you can accelerate, how quick you can slow down, and how quick you can go in a straight line at the highest value. Now, traction basically determines how quick you can go around corners. So try to imagine that you come up to a corner in a race, you're going at 100 miles per hour and you don't bother to slow down. All you do is just turn in at 100 miles per hour. It's quite a sharp corner. What's going to happen? You know, you're just going to continue going straight on. You're not going to turn very much because you're going far too quickly for the corner. And that was something that you see in racing a lot of time, is people just, you know, overshoot the checkpoints or just go off the track, because people aren't slowing down. People expect that you can just go around a corner at full speed, and that's not the case. It's not that much of an arcade game that you're able to do that. So what you have to do is you have to slow down before you get to the corner. Now, I've covered all of this in my racing school. If anyone actually is interested in improving their racing skills and actually understanding what this is all about, the racing school does explain all of this, but I'm just going to try and, cover it basically here. You slow down, you do your braking, you slow down to say 40 miles per hour. Then you get 10 into the corner, you get around the corner, and then you start accelerating back up to 100 again. And that's fine. You've done the corner, and that's all well and good. But what if you could go around that corner at 60 miles per hour instead? You've gone around it at 40 miles per hour, but you could have gone around it at 60 miles per hour. Well, then every single corner that comes up, you're losing 20 miles per hour around the entire course of the corner. It might take you, 2 or 3 seconds to get around the corner, where you're going 20 miles per hour slower than everybody else. And this is, this affects everything else, because if you can go around the corner at 60 miles per hour rather than 40 miles per hour, then you don't have to brake as much. From 100 to 60, it's going to take you less time to get to 60 than it will take you to get to 40. You don't have to accelerate as much because you're exiting the corner at 60 miles per hour instead of 40 miles per hour. So you don't have to accelerate as much back up to that 100. It basically it involves itself in the entirety of the lap time that you're going to get. And if you consider that in regular racing circuits, sort of proper racing that we do, there's a lot of corners on a track. You're going to be losing a lot of time if you're going 20 miles per hour slower around every single corner. And the reason that I do 2 different styles of testing with my testing videos is because top speed matters very, very little in proper racing, and proper racing aspects like traction and acceleration and braking matter very little in anything that top speed actually makes a difference in. On long highway races, you hit top speed and then you're at top speed for the majority of the race. You don't need traction, you don't need acceleration. On regular races, you may take a corner, start accelerating up to your top speed, but before you can even reach top speed, then there's another corner to take. So, and there's some tracks where you never ever reach that top speed value, because there's always another corner before you get the chance to reach top speed, and that's why top speed matters very, very little in a proper racing situation. So when you consider a track might have a lot of corners, if you're going slower around all of those corners, then you're going to be losing a lot of time. But what determines how quickly you can actually get around those corners? Well, if you're going around each corner at 40 miles per hour, you could just try to go around it a little bit quicker every time. The next time you come to the corner, you go around at 45, that's fine. You go around at 50, that's fine again. You go around at 55, again, that's fine. You go around at 60, that's fine. And then as soon as you go around it at 65 miles per hour, you're going too fast. You drift out too wide and you hit the wall. So that's the limit that you've found. You've found that at 60 miles per hour, you got around the corner fine. At 65 miles per hour, you were going too fast. Now, what determines that limit? What determines that point at which the car starts to drift out wide? That is traction. So that is the grip that you have with the tyres contacting the road. The more traction that you have, the higher speed you will be able to take around each corner. Now, like I said, if you're taking a corner at 40 miles per hour, it doesn't matter what car you're in. Ultimately, and this is why I tried to get across in my videos, ultimately, if you're not getting the most out of these vehicles, you're not taking the corners in the best way possible, then it is going to come down to acceleration and braking more so than traction, because you could take every single car around every single corner at 40 miles per hour. So the traction isn't going to make a difference to you because you're not pushing the car to its limit. But when you do start to actually push the car to its limit, that's when you notice these differences. That's when you notice these changes, and you notice that you can actually get around corners quicker when the traction is higher. It is slightly difficult to put into words because you in some way you have to have a general understanding of racing, and again, I do recommend anybody watching this to watch a bit of the Racing School series to get a little bit of an understanding. But hopefully I'm getting this across as well as I can do. In that example, when you're going at 60 miles per hour, you find that 60 miles per hour is the limit of which you can take that corner. If you had a car with higher traction, then you could take that corner at 65 miles per hour. If you had a car with lower traction, then the speed that you can get around the corner may only be 55. So ultimately, traction determines the speed at which you can take corners when you're pushing the car to the limit. And again, if you're not pushing the car to the limit around the corners, it doesn't matter what the traction is, because you're not making the most out of what the car can do in a cornering situation. So let's go back to the Pfister 811, and how does this actually impact on whether the Pfister 811 is very good. Obviously the 811 has the highest top speed of any car in the game, so based on, you know, that Saints fans comment and what a lot of people may think, that automatically means that it's the best car to have regardless of the situation. And that's not the case, because the 811 doesn't have a very high traction stat in comparison to other supercars. So what is it about the 811's traction that makes it so bad in a racing situation? Basically, it means that, as I mentioned earlier, the 811, despite having a really high top speed, it can't utilize the power of the engine, the speed that it has, because it's limited by the traction that it has. It's limited in that it can only go around corners. It goes around corners slower than the other supercars because of that traction. You can't get it to go around a corner quicker than a T20. You can't get it to go around a corner quicker than an X80. It's not possible. Again, if you were to go really slow in all cars, you can go, you know, 40 miles per hour around every corner in the Pfister 811. You can go 40 miles per hour around every corner in the X80, and then the cars are exactly the same. But as soon as you start to actually push the limits and see what the cars are capable of, you may be able to go 70 miles per hour around a corner in a T20. You can only go 55 miles per hour around the corner in 811, and as soon as you start to go 60 miles per hour around it, you will crash and drift out wide because it's too fast. So you've probably been seeing in this video that the first bit of footage was on a race that has a lot of long straights, and that's where the 811 does very good. My performance was okay in that race, you know, it wasn't spectacular, but because it was a lot of long straights and the 811 was able to get up to its high top speed, it was able to pass other cars quite easily, and ultimately I had a decent race in the end and got a second place out of it. That's where the 811's strengths lie. It lies in anything where you can utilize that top speed for a majority of the time. But as soon as you go to a race that is totally reliant on corners, and pretty much any airport track is reliant on corners, as soon as you go to that point, you lose all ability to be quick, and you see it on the footage in a non-contact format as well. There's just nothing the 811 can do to keep up with these other supercars. Airport races are very traction oriented because there's a lot of turns, and the turns themselves are quite long. You know, the cornering, there's a lot more cornering, there's a lot more time spent cornering than there is on other tracks, on airport races in general. So in the footage that you're seeing of this airport race now, the 811 just can't keep up in the corners. It just loses the time in cornering, and that's simply because it can't take those corners as quickly as the other supercars. I'm not doing anything wrong in particular with the way that I'm driving it. I'm taking all the right lines and I'm getting the most out of the car, but because it just doesn't have that basic traction that other supercars do, it loses time, and I end up way down the order. Now, in any given racing situation, the car performance may not matter, especially in random races. Basically, the lower the skill level of the people you're racing against, the less this matters. You know, going back to that idea that if everybody's taking every car around every corner at 40 miles per hour, the traction doesn't make a difference. But as you start to get better at racing, you start to make the most out of the car's performance, get better lap times, and as soon as you come up against somebody who can make the most out of the car in the corners, you're going to be left behind, because the traction ultimately rules all in a racing situation, just like top speed rules all in a long highway race situation. So ultimately, to answer the question of whether you should buy an 811 or not, it depends on what you're going to use it for. If all you do is long highway races that don't require any cornering ability whatsoever, then yeah, go ahead, use it, get an 811. It's the quickest car in the game in terms of top speed, so if you're going to utilize that top speed all the time, then it's going to be worth it. If you're doing lots of regular racing, proper racing, let's say, with tracks with corners, the 811 isn't going to be for you, and it's way off the pace because it just doesn't have that ultimate traction and cornering ability that the other supercars do. If you're racing in a lobby with random people, then you may end up winning in the 811, you may end up doing well. As you can see in this video, even though the 811 has been left behind by some of the cars at the top end of the field, I'm still sort of mid-pack in the overall standings because other people aren't getting the most out of their cars, other people are making mistakes and things like that. So in any given racing situation, anything can happen. But as soon as you start to come up against somebody who is relatively decent, you're going to be losing time in the 811, and that goes for all of the lower down supercars and things like that as well. Being able to win a random race doesn't necessarily mean that the car itself is quicker than any other, because there's so many different variables that go into a racing situation and so many different skill levels as well. So that pretty much covers everything. I hope I've been able to explain that well, because it's difficult to explain. It is difficult to put it into words just what this means, and I'm glad that I heard that comment on his video, because you know, it brought to my mind that not everybody understands this, and not everybody is that interested in racing to understand this sort of thing, and it's not my job to just assume that people know this stuff and put the information out there without any explanation. So hopefully this has been a help, and hopefully this has answered his question as well, and given a bit more of an insight. Like I said, have a look at the Racing School series if you're at all interested in this, because it will clarify a few things, and a better understanding of racing in general will allow you to understand why the cars have different performances in different situations. But yeah, it's been a long one, and I apologise for that. It is just something that's difficult to explain, but hopefully you've found some enjoyment out of it and some interesting information anyway. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Obviously we've got the 770 coming out next week. I will be testing that and seeing what it can do in the sports class, and then we'll have reordered lists of all the top cars so you can see just where everything lies. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the support recently as well. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.